correct. So yeah, I'm a machine learning researcher at ML Collective. I've been around in the data ecosystem for about 3 years. Yeah, continue. I think I spent my first year doing data science. I was more of a data scientist. Then I started dancing around. I did a bit of data engineering. Then I also do ML ops. But yeah, continue. So now I focus more on ML research and my just keep pressing. And my research interest is robust and efficient low resource machine learning. That's what I focus on currently in my research. Continue. Yeah. So enough of my background. Now I'm here to talk about what open source and data business and data driven businesses can do for one another. And why my background was a bit long in quotes is because I'm coming with perspective of what I do because my angle is from what I do. Like I said, I do low resource and efficient machine learning, like robust and efficient machine learning, and I have to work with a lot of open source tools. Yeah, so that has shaped my the because this talk, okay, what I'm going to be talking about is not facts. It's not what you find on the internet in quotes. It's just my perspective to things. In great potluck of progress, open source brings the pie. The data-driven businesses bring the fork. You can't have one without the other. And who doesn't love pie? Yeah. Now that's like a mirror of our reality in quotes because we take a lot from open source, from tools developed by people, well-meaning people that contribute to the society by developing open source tools. But we give little back. So that's why people like I'm not part of it, people, but people that don't find a way to contribute, you just bring fork. Then people that contribute, I mean between people that contribute, they bring the pie, and it is not balanced like that. So let's carry on. So the agenda is the philosophical alignment, economic and innovative empowerment, ethical contributions and growth, deep dive success stories, then the road ahead and challenges. Like I said, it's a bit philosophical. It's just my perspective to things. So yeah, can you continue? Sorry, ma, please. Okay. So yesterday the word open source, we all have a concept of what it means or what it's supposed to. We all have our definitions. Yeah, the words might not be exact, but in fine grained terms, they are basically the same thing. Carry on, which is open source. Yeah. Did you ask a question? No, I thought somebody called me out. Okay, so open source is driven by a community that values sharing and collaboration. Sharing and collaboration. Then the idea that software should be freely accessible and modifiable by its users. It is built on the belief that collaboration and transparency foster innovation, allowing communities to collectively improve, adapt. We all have that definition in our head. So next one, please. Yeah, don't be like that guy. When you use tools, acknowledge them and find a way to contribute. How you can contribute, we'll get to that at the end of things. Yeah. So where should I stand, guys? Like this is okay. Even myself, I need the slide. But what's the data-driven business philosophy? Yeah, obviously every business has their own philosophy. It can be specific, yeah, but when we like live it, when we come to an higher level, a more generic term, it is basically just to um it's about serving the needs of a community of consumers. So every business has a community of users or consumers. Like I hope that makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. So carry on, please. I'm going somewhere. So what do they have in common? What does the philosophy that governs open source and the philosophy that governs data-driven businesses? Well, yes. Okay, we'll work with this. Initially, I thought I was going to have this pointer stuff, so like I'll just be progressively, like taking you guys along the journey. But we work with what we have. So please, the next slide. Okay, so like I said earlier, open source is driven by a community that can. So the next one, businesses can have different philosophies. Blah, blah, blah. So the thing about the one thing that is common in their philosophies, they both have the keyword community. I don't know if that makes sense to us. So it is a business. A business is looking to serve a community of users or customers. Open source is driven by the idea that tools, software, code, whatever it is, should be shared. I don't know if you get to a community. So now that's what brings the two of them together, and that's what makes it a unique scenario where it could be a fine loop or a spiral, depending on how you choose to look at it. It does not have to be open ended. It does not have to be one sided. It could be two ends connecting. So you feed off this. This also feeds off you because we have one thing in common. Like I said, it's going to be a bit philosophical. So yeah, next one, please. So yeah, and one thing about community or what makes a community is even though we have like the same big picture, we all come with unique perspectives. Like every this data first community or the data science community, the big picture for all of us is data. There are many terms thrown around. We will not dabble into that, but we're all different people. We come with different perspectives. There's a sense, an underlying sense of what shapes what our judgment and what constitutes as the things that we set forth to do, or the things that the what motivates us for the big picture in quotes. Yeah. So now the what open source and data driven businesses in the sense that they are both attending to a community, what they can do for one another is, now let me speak from the data driven business side. Now the thing is, as a business you want to expand. Obviously you don't just want to, like, even though you have a set of users already. By the way, I'm not a business person, so at any point you find me capping, just bear with me. Like, business is not entirely my thing, but I'm just working with generic things that we all know here. So, like I said, one thing about a business is you cannot be content with what you have. You want to expand. And how do you expand? You can only expand by reaching the next person that you have not captured already. And the only way you can capture a person is by giving the person something that suits or something that is aligned to what the person wants, or that is interesting to the person's uniqueness. I don't know if I hope I am making sense. I hope I'm not just. I think if I'm capping, just let your faces be telling it. I don't mind. Yeah. So, like I said, so the same thing for open source. I don't know how many people have contributed to open source here. So I wanted to put a question and answer session there, but the fear I had is I don't like being heard, like where I'll ask a question and everybody is looking at me. Yeah, I cannot stand that shame. I don't have much shame, but that shame, nah. So I didn't even bother putting. But let's go ahead and ask. Is there anybody here that has contributed to open source here? So what do people do? Okay, no problem. I didn't want to bring the Bariga side. I'm sorry. I'm proud of where I'm coming from, but at the same time, why in Oregon, and it's more tush than when I'm coming from. So, let's. I just want to cement that point there. So, now, here's the thing. What I mean by it could be a closed loop where this one is feeding off this, and this is also feeding off. Where it is symbiotic, is that for open source development, if as a business you contribute, one way you can contribute is by giving feedbacks on the software. So that's the thing. As a developer, I assume majority of us here are developers. As a developer, maybe not majority. Sorry that I'm assuming. This is data. We should be specific. We should not just like assume stuff and all. So, but speaking from the perspective of a developer, it is one thing to build a software. It's another thing to meet a business need. Yes, that one I have learned from my experience. I like to develop stuff. I like to build. I know that there will be one or two users that will enjoy what I'm building, but it does not mean it will serve so many people. It does not mean so many people can connect with it. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So it's one thing to build, it's another thing to serve as many people as it ought to serve. So that's the thing that a business can do to open source. When you use open source tools, that there are ways. It's not one specific. There are so many ways. You just have to think about it. So, for instance, it can just be you, since you have not contributed to open source here, so I'll try not to be too technical. Even as simple as going to the pull request, there's a pull request section where you can just drop comments and all. Where you drop comments on how, okay, this particular software, this is one we used it for our business. This was what we found out, and this. I think if you do it like this, our users will appreciate this more, and that kind of a scenario. But the way things work, going back to the quote of the fork and the pie, we just come, we use no feedback back. You just give the developer a thumbs up. Some of us are stingy with star. You know, on GitHub there's star and there's watch. You cannot even drop star, but no problem. Yeah, stuff like that. So don't lose me. The summary of all the story that I've been saying is it could be closed loop where there are business feedbacks, real world feedbacks, where you give back to the developers or the open source software. It does software, technology, anything it is. Then at the same time, because that helps the developers, that helps because you're not just building for build. Some people build for the fun of it, but the big picture for your building is to serve, is to help, like is to be of good use or serve a good cause in quotes. Now that depends on what you call a good cause, but yeah, you get the gist. Yeah, so yeah, that's that. So when it becomes iterative, it becomes a very progressive loop. So it means that I am feeding off you, you are feeding off me. So I, as a developer, I cannot entirely call myself an open source developer, but I think I'm better than most of us because me, I would have raised up my hand if I was in the crowd. So I, as a developer in code, or someone who contributes to open source or who builds open source software, having such feedback, such because obviously you know people that do stuff together, people that do the same thing flock together. Most of my friends are developer friends. I do machine learning research. 90% of the people that I talk to daily are researchers scattered across Nigeria and Lagos. So yeah, that kind. I hope you get it. I'm sorry if my talk is not structured like the last speaker. She did pretty well. Me, I just came in to like gist and let's see what we can do in this regard. I, I'm sorry if everybody paid 5K now. I hope it is value for your 5K. So now the next part about economic innovative lab. See all those ones that were big English, it was just so that they would accept the slide and the topic. This is the cocoa gogo. Now the tangible gains. Can you continue, please? The tangible gains. So one thing open source can do for businesses, depending on what realm, because now when we say data-driven businesses, it can mean anything. There are people we serve different things. So for somebody like for because of my own experience, I get to maybe not entirely interface, but I get to relate with companies like InstaDeep, maybe to some extent DSN and co. And what those ones do, they serve as intermediaries, they build data solutions. They cannot entirely they are under data driven business, but they don't talk directly to the end users. I don't know if I'm making sense. And there are businesses that interact directly with the end users. They are all data driven businesses. And that's why the way I did the talk, I tried to not make it too direct to this side. But obviously my bias is going to show and my own experience is going to show. So can you please just keep pressing. Okay, thank you. So what open source can do for data-driven businesses is it can be your platform for R&D, research and development. I don't know what exposure we have when it comes to businesses and products and all, but R&D is a very big deal. All of the top companies that you know invest. You can use the word throw. They throw a lot of money into building the quality tools that we get to use. For instance, the chat GPT that everybody is in love with, the amount of money it takes to run an ablation study. An ablation study is when you try different parameters just to be sure the exact combination that is correct is tons. We're talking millions of dollars. Like that was before. So the chat GPT model, we don't have all of the specifics. They didn't release their the chat GPT model that you use that we call 3.5, or those of you that have money that you're using plus, those ones, those that's just like a single model in quotes. What we call an ablation study is where you use more, you try different parameters before you can get the best one. Now that's a research term. If you're familiar with it, good for you. So now that to do that experiment before we came to pick this is the best one and this is the one that we release product on is a lot. It costs a lot. Now everybody cannot be they cannot be opening. I don't think you have $1 million to spend on doing research and on doing research and building tools or things that would give your business that big advantage. So rather than go down the route when you don't have the money to spend, you can take advantage of open source. There are so many, like so many. Is it data engineering? That is your company focused on data engineering where you use a lot of every data tools, a lot. So what I was, by the way, it was yesterday night that I did this slide. Yes, and this morning on that sits there. When I was doing the slide and I was checking the Apache, their log in codes, the tools under Apache, they were because they grouped them. There's the one for data engineering, there's the one for analytics, there's the one for model evaluation, different sections and all. There are a lot. Even I was not aware of. I was not aware of 80% of the tools that were available that are currently being maintained, like they are actively maintained. Like if I tell you that you have not, like I said, we all have an idea of what open source is, and we have a couple of tools in mind. I can categorically tell you that you have not seen you have not seen more than 10% of the actual tools that you can leverage on. Like I myself, I saw it and I was like, wow, this is a big deal. Like there are a lot of tools that you can use depending on whatever business that you are doing, depending on whatever need your business requires. I don't know if I'm making sense. So one thing you can do on your own part, or what can be your own R&D, is you taking your time to find out the tools, because it's not everything that you find an article on. It's not everything that you see being talked about every day on Twitter. It does not mean that those are the only tools available. Some of them are pretty good tools that when you find them out and when you begin to use them, you realize that a lot of the things that you have been manually doing or that have been paying heavy money to do or to hire somebody to do are things that you could have come very easy for you. So that's the part about where open source can be R&D for a business or a data-driven business. Can you please keep on? Is this next one? Okay. Modularity and flexibility. Obviously, you know that the way, if you don't know, I'm telling you, the way open source tools, not all of them, but the ones that you have to interact directly with the source code, the way they are built in a way where you can modify it to suit your need. Okay, for instance, now let's say a Llama 2. Llama is the language model released by Meta. Yeah, so a Llama 2 now, even off the top of the shelf, yeah, you can use a Llama 2 for almost most things, actually, most things. I won't say it's unfortunate, but it is. We're in the scenario where majority of the needs of businesses in Nigeria is centered around chatbots and chats this and chat that, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more that you can get from all these models that are outside beyond even just chatbot. I think the chatbot problem is almost, we won't call it solved, but it's not a big problem because in very few lines of code you would get a chatbot that works fine, that your customer would not even know that yes, you were like he or she was talking to a chatbot, and you don't have to use the OpenAI models. You don't have to pay. There's many. There's Perplexity. There's Decoyer, and there are so many tools in that regard. But now that's just for charts. But there's a lot in as regards analytics. To use the OpenAI code, some code lab, I've forgotten the name of it. That one you have to pay money. But there are free tools that even existed before the OpenAI breakthrough that you could use for analytics that you didn't need to know so much about statistics to draw insights from. I don't know if the model will do that for you. Now, I know I'm being a bit specific to the model side because those are the ones I thoroughly know. But I'm also telling you that the other side of data, the many other sides of data, there are also tools that will serve your needs. The ones I know are subject to the things I need and the things I use daily. So bear with my kidney there. So what I was saying about modularity and flexibility is the case where the source code is available or the model is openly released. The model that is released, you can fine tune it for whatever you want it to do. The source code or the tools, some of the tools, not all of them, you can always take them and make them more specific for your business, more specific for your use case. Yeah, in that regard. I hope I'm not. Have I begun to bore you people? Really, are you sure? Yeah. I didn't expect that you will last this long, but carry on, please. Yeah. So, nurturing the ecosystem. Don't worry. At the end of the talk, I will summarize my points into meaningful takeaways. Like that. Okay, that talk that you attended. This was what the guy was trying to say. Forgive me that it is chat. I don't like live serious. So yeah, what was the title for this one? I have 5 minutes more. Okay. Ethical contributions and growth. Just quick questions. Let me. Okay. Yeah, knowledge sharing. He also relates to the first point about how it could be a two-way thing. A two-way thing in the sense that obviously you using open source tools is knowledge sharing. Somebody is sleeping already. It is well. So as I was saying, knowledge sharing. So you using open source tools is a case of knowledge sharing. So also giving back to the tool, constructive feedbacks, basically how it has served your business. Well, what you think can change in terms of it, what can make it more effective for your business and stuff like that. It does not now. When we say business can mean anything depending on what you do. So just don't think that okay, it's just a one-way thing. It's either if you're not doing, somebody else is doing your own. Like I said initially about the whole community thing, is what makes it interesting is the different perspectives that we come in. So the different use case that your business serves in quotes, you can always drop your feedback and it's going to help the developer or whoever is building a long way. Like so now what that you have a question. Is it time? They said I must finish first. Please let me finish. So where that analogy came from, last year I was on a project where we were building a solution. It was supposed to be an opinion mining platform for Algorand and all. So after writing the wonderful code, now it was time for the users to use our tools. Then we had this, I don't know what they call that thing again, but where you created beta testing. So like a closed, we brought in people like users to come and test our product and give us feedbacks. And UI that me I felt was fine and was slick, and because I did the data engineering architecture, and they came and they were saying this is that, this is how long it took to write this code. This one is not fine in your eyes. You don't understand what this one means. What does this shape look like? And blah 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 blah. So what we realized that I personally, the product manager, he knew all of those things. Well, I personally, what I realized then was that it is one thing to build. It is one thing to have something quite powerful, but it is another thing for it to serve exactly what your user needs. I don't know if you get my point. So it's just like the case of Threads and X. Threads, the day it came out, or not the first, maybe a day or a week. I didn't go there. Everybody was crazy about, hey, you wanted Threads. Some of you opened accounts. Now where is it? you're back to your Twitter. I don't know. I find that Twitter thing very funny. You're abusing the owner on his tool. I say, no problem. I've already skipped that part. Yeah, okay, yeah. So that was the part about giving solid feedbacks to the open source tools and all. Then the part of this part is also important. Financial support and grassroots. Now it takes a lot to build. You can contribute in any way. Your feedbacks are very important, but your monetary feedbacks is also important. Like you buying a coffee is like just giving $10. You can give $5. Today's economy, that's 5,000. That's it goes. So imagine 10 people giving 5,000 naira to the user after you have used it to generate money, because you might not want to give it before you start using it to make money. That also helps the user because it takes a lot of time to build. Apart from the positive feedbacks that you get in terms of the things that your user says, the monetary support too helps a lot, because when you give support in money, it encourages the user to build more, because it's money to buy data, it's money to use very powerful tools or use expensive compute engines and all that kind of. So like if you ever wondered why ChatGPT is not free, or why GPT plus, it's even free. So ChatGPT is free. It's the GPT plus pass that you pay. What it costs to host the already trained model, not to train the model, the already trained model on, maybe okay, they use Azure, but I use AWS, and I also use GCP. What it costs to host such a model is a lot, like a lot, like money is burning. So that's why it is not sustainable for them to just. So, for instance, now Llama 2, okay, Meta, they could have made a fine interface for you to interact with Llama and chat with Llama. But now at that point, they begin to lose money because it's going to be they'll be bleeding every day. Every day they keep the model hosted. That's why they just release the weights for you to play around with. I don't know if I'm making sense. So yeah, grassroots support, organizing hackathons, yeah, and there, yeah, so many things that can be done in that regard. Let's just keep to the. So I wanted to give instances of where companies have used open source tools and they've contributed back money wise, or using their engineers to also make solid contributions to the tools. So like Airbnb and Apache subsets, there's Netflix and Apache Cassandra, there's Alibaba and Flink. There are so many. I don't know how many of us have. So I was creating this backdrop. So like I said, I was checking the Apache list of tools they had under their license, and I was just speaking. Okay, obviously, TensorFlow and Keras, they are not part of Apache. Neither is PyTorch. But the tools I found, majority of these things here are there. Some of us don't know about these tools, and they are free, readily available for your use, serving different need case or needs. I don't think these slides will be shared. I feel proud. I'm taking the I'm taking a picture of my slide. Very good. Can you please go back? Let me feature in the picture. Okay, so there are problems even when we use open source services. Like you all know, data governance is a thing. Data laws, data policy, it's a very big thing. It's a big deal. Like the data laws are new, so they are ever changing. We're learning. So now there's a conversation going on should we ban open sourcing large language models, like so large language models like okay, Llama and Co. and Mistra and the many other open source models. Should we ban them? Like, should we ban open sourcing them where their weights are not available because of the damage that people can use them to do? Like, it's an ongoing conversation. The data laws are just being written; they've not been written yet. There's a lot of legislations. Okay, Nigeria might be very far behind in that regard, but outside of Nigeria, in fact, in Nigeria, so for instance, because I talk to people a lot about careers and all, and okay, you will go and eat. I'm coming. So yeah, open source governance. That's where you find things like the Linux foundations, and there are roles that you can play. It doesn't have to be writing code. It doesn't even have to be you contributing constructive feedback. And let me just, you're forgetting. Just be pressing down. They'll share the slides. You're resting down. ah, so they told me it was a 30-minute talk. So I thought, oh, 30 minutes, why not? I'll blow them in. Hey, Kilawaso. Okay, so now the summary of it all is simple. You can benefit a lot from open source. Open source is not just complex code that you find on the internet. And how you can contribute is not just by giving money, by also giving feedbacks, even by writing about that tool that you found. So, for instance, if I use Apache Flink, and it served me a lot. I could write about it, giving the guys that built it, the developers, more publicity. If I can't give them money, I can give them publicity, and somebody that can give them money might come along. So the summary of it all is, it doesn't have to be you just eating here then going your way. It could be a closed loop where we're both benefiting from one another. Yeah, that's the summary of it all. That's what I've been trying to hear for the last 30 minutes. Thank you for attending my talk.